Power on.
Earth, 2019. Dominant species, human. Galactic potential rating, 0. Cultural affiliation, combination of government and global businesses, corporatism, legacy institution. Species still conservative, superstitious, and religious. Ecologically illiterate, largely unaware of cosmological foundation of love. Level of technological dependence is disturbingly higher than the galactic standard. Species distracted and behavior controlled by technology companies. System error. Advanced concepts detected beyond normal human levels. New galactic potential rating, over 9,000. Transmission type, podcast. Host, The Man of Tomorrow. Brian Sovryn. Source, Sovryn Tech.
Coffeeed up and ready to get into this action. It is, well, as has been regular lately on Sundays, it is your episode of Sovryn Tech, one of the longest running, and yes, it is we're not going on. We are 7 years deep with this baby, but a tech show like no other, ready to bring it on this week. Of course, I am the Golden Stallion, the Man of Tomorrow, Savzu, the Rated R radio star. Pick all the names, baby, because we got plenty to get into, but I want to open her up. In fact, you might think this doesn't have anything to do with Sovryn Tech, but it does. It really does, because actually we covered this, it was a few years ago that there was a big, and it was big. I don't think people realize just how massive this little leak of information was, but there was a major expose, and I want to say, I think the story we read on Sovryn Tech was from it's not really a magazine. It's not really, it's a news organization of sorts, but Extreme Tech, they used to just publish books. But anyway, whatever. It was from Extreme Tech. And the story was talking about how the military, as in the U.S. military, was really pulling the strings in Hollywood. And they were doing so via the purse strings. Meaning that if you didn't do, basically, if Hollywood Studios some kind, and you take your pick, Universal, I don't know, maybe Canon would have been a thing at the time, Touchstone Pictures, Columbia, which of course is Sony, but go down the list of them. If you didn't do what they wanted, if you didn't play ball with them, they wouldn't give you an extreme discount on using a lot of military hardware, which features prominently in a lot of films, especially your big action movies and whatnot. Or they wouldn't give you access to a lot of information, to people, whatever. To put it succinctly, it would cost you, okay, and you wouldn't believe the movies that this affected. There was some of the ones they mentioned were Terminator. There were other films, but it would cost you anywhere from 4 to 20 times the, what it would normally cost if you just played ball with the military. Because the military, they like to make money off of Hollywood renting equipment and things like this. But basically what you'd have to do the military would say, okay, yeah, you can do this with our equipment, or you can put us in this and you can do this and we'll give you this discount, but you can't make the military look bad. And arguably, that's why in a lot of films, the military comes off as the hero, as to where sometimes, or I would argue, actually, me personally, I would argue all the time, the military should come off as the villain, right? But you're not allowed in Hollywood, if you give a shit about your budget as a movie producer, or as a studio, you're not allowed to be nasty with the military. Or if you are going to be nasty with the military, it has to be like a rogue element or something like that, right? Like something out of a Mission Impossible movie or you name it. So in a very real way, the military has a lot of sway and control over Hollywood, which is probably why, and I think this is actually true throughout the entire entertainment industry, includes the music industry, go down the list. And it's probably why, in fact, in the music industry, you can see it pretty hardcore, but there's films that you can think of as well from like the 50s and 60s where this would be the case. But it's probably why there really haven't been any real anti-war films, not real anti-war films, or anti-war songs, which used to be very popular, even from bands like Steppenwolf and a bunch of other ones. You know, I mean, these used to be very, very popular things, and very commonplace things, and they haven't been for a very long time. And this is likely due to the fact that, you know, again, the military can say, well, you know, we'll let you use our shit, or we'll let you use this area, or maybe even we'll cordon off parts of the street for you, which is often done by local police, but it can be done by National Guard and military as well. You know, it becomes very cost prohibitive to be anti-military, okay, in any kind of production that you have. Now, when we talked about this story years ago, trust me, this is going to have a point, and it's going to have to do with something that I did recently and that we're going to talk about later on in the climax of this episode. One of the movies that this severely affected was Top Gun. Now, it didn't affect, maybe you know where this is going to go, but it didn't affect Top Gun in that it kept Top Gun from getting made, but it did keep Top Gun 2 from getting made. And this was part of that expose from Extreme Tech, which was that you find out that the military at the time, the U.S. military back in, well, this would have been after 1986 when the original Top Gun came out. And understand that was the highest grossing movie of 1986. We're going to talk about this a little bit. But basically, they said that the movie Top Gun sexualized the military. And so they, you know, told the movie, you know, Hollywood, they said to Hollywood, you're not going to make a Top Gun 2 because this is making us look bad, or this is shining us in the light that we don't like. Now, there's no way, I mean, let's be honest, there's no way you would spend, I mean, just imagine what an F-14, just imagine the gas bill of an F-14, okay? That's, you know, just to run one of those, I mean, for the average movie production, maybe a year, principal photography, 3 to 6 months, something like that. I mean, the gas bill for an F-14 for 6 months is going to cost you, you know, about your movie budget, quite frankly. Even if it's a movie as big and that did as much money, and it did. Again, it was the biggest movie of that year, that Top Gun was. It's very expensive. You have to have the military playing ball with you. Okay, so if the military says, no, we're not going to, you know, lend you our F-14s or our F-16s or F-18s, whatever at the time that they wanted to make Top Gun 2, even though that was one of the biggest successes in movie history, and it really was, you know, you can't do it because without those, you know, tax breaks or without those, you know, without the government lending those things to you, giving you the cuts on that, whatever, it's just, there's no way that movie is going to happen. Now, the message at the time, of course, on Sovryn Tech was, this is why, I mean, you're never going to get, because I get a lot of people that are like, oh yeah, this is so libertarian. Oh yeah, this is like, you know, different media, you know, different movies or whatever. Oh, this has such a great message in it, all that. It's like, you're never going to get a great message out of Hollywood ever again. Not in anything new. It's just not going to happen. TV might have been able to skirt by a little bit longer. Some science fiction might have been able to skirt by a little bit longer. But today, I mean, you know, the powers that be pull all the strings on entertainment. And that was my point at the time years ago on Sovryn Tech with bringing up that story. The other thing that I brought up is that I would never forgive the military. I have plenty of reasons not to forgive the military, you know, as a veteran that thankfully got out. But you know, the other thing I said is like, I'm never going to forgive them for us never getting a Top Gun 2. Now, there's a little bit of a conversation to have around that because now we know, and the trailer, in fact, Ellen and I, we went and saw yesterday as of this recording, we went and saw Fast and the Furious Presents Hobbs and Shaw, or Fast and Furious Presents whatever they call that now. And that movie, which I'm going to review later on in this episode, opening it up, there was a trailer for Top Gun Maverick, which is effectively Top Gun 2 that's coming out in 2020. So, I mean, kind of a long road to getting to this, but you're getting my point here, okay? Or you're getting why this is actually relevant. I mean, hell, I can talk about whatever I want to talk about, quite frankly, but why this is relevant, to Sovryn Tech, because it's a conversation we've had before about Top Gun 2. Top Gun 2 is now, getting made. And I know the trailer came out previously, but it is the lead trailer for, and holy fuck, when we were sitting, I know this has been this way for a little while, but I swear to fuck, the movie started at noon, and it wasn't until 12:30 that the movie actually really fucking started. There was 20 some odd minutes, 25 minutes of fucking trailers. And I mean, it was nice to see the Rise of Skywalker trailer Rise of Skywalker trailer. That was nice. A couple of the trailers were interesting to see, kind of on a big screen and not just on YouTube or whatever. But the opening, I mean, it's insane how long you have to sit there and wait. And, if you order ice cream, like I had some Butterfinger Bites ice cream there, and I want to eat that while I'm enjoying the movie, while I'm having a good laugh, because I know I'm seeing a Fast and Furious movie. I know there's going to be some laughs, and boy, fuck, we're there. But, I mean, your ice cream could melt before the movie actually fucking starts if you're there on time. And I'm a very timely individual. It was insane. So anyway, but the opening trailer starts, and you're getting the shots of, whatever, jet fighter going by and everything. And it's Top Gun, Maverick. Man. So look, okay, we're just going to have a little movie talk here, opening it up. We got tons of tech news to get into. We got a great Bitcoin segment to get into that actually makes a prediction of mine come totally true. That has nothing to do with price, just with function of between Apple and Bitcoin. You're going to see what happens. But anyway, we got a lot to talk about. We got, oh man, and actually entertainment is going to be a major theme in this episode, because we got to talk up some Netflix as well. They are doing some ugly ass shit, or at least they were. There's been an update, but we'll cover that. Anyway, back to Top Gun Maverick. You could have gotten away with the Top Gun 2 back in 1987. Anytime I think if you made it between 87 and maybe like 1990 or 91, you could have gotten away, and it would have been, the movie would have been huge. I mean, it would have just been massive. Hell, you could have done a trilogy, I bet, and did pretty good money. Granted, I don't think this is so much true at the time. Maybe Hollywood execs still think this way, but a common thing that Hollywood execs thought back in the day was that the second movie will do more money than the first. They pretty much guarantee that, so they're willing to put in a little more budget. But the irony is that the third movie of any franchise, Hollywood execs generally, their rule of thumb is that it's going to do 25% less than the second film. But they still could have done great money, I bet, if they made Top Gun movies in that time frame. Okay, but it'd have to be there. You'd have to do it before The Matrix was a thing, before science fiction really took over. And believe me, science fiction had not taken over yet. Nerds were still getting picked on in the 90s and everything. You really had to be ahead of that game. Okay. Before The Matrix and other movies, and Episode 1 and a lot of this other stuff dropped, before science fiction became the moneymaker du jour. Okay. In Hollywood, Top Gun would have had to have come out with its 2 movies at that point. You could have gotten away with it then. Here's the weird thing. Now, I just said, and I said years ago on this very show, that I'll never forgive the military for not allowing Top Gun 2 to be a thing. I was being a little funny. I did like that movie, and I'll explain why. I did like the original Top Gun, not because of the military. It was just exciting because we didn't have, you have to understand that in the 80s and even in the early 90s, CGI wasn't there yet. That wouldn't really be there until like 94. I mean, yeah, we had The Last Starfighter and so on. But, until Jurassic Park dropped, we didn't really have like that totally lifelike CGI. Okay. So when you saw tremendous airplane, jet fighter action, that grabbed you. And you can read the reviews for Top Gun from back in 86. And that's what everybody talks about. But you know what else everybody's going to talk about? They're going to say, the airplane sequences are fucking amazing and incredibly exciting. It's a thrill ride in the theaters, but anytime 2 people are actually just like, there's no jet fighters and it's just 2 people talking to each other or whatever, the movie's horrible. That's the general gist, the general review you're going to get from that. And that is absolutely true. There's some quotable moments from that, but let's be clear here. That movie, it's a total style film. It's all about what little elements it has of a cool factor. There is, that movie has no plot. Straight up. I can say, I mean, and the soundtrack's great too. Like, I can give it that, but it's a style film. There's no plot. Who's the bad guy in that movie? Who's the antagonist? What, the Meg? There's barely, and I know everybody talks about the love story, and are you fucking kidding me? There's no love story there. The whole time she's just trying to get Maverick, Tom Cruise's character, the civilian contractor. She's just trying to get him to talk about the Meg and whatever. Oh, it's a film like with little moments, exciting, jet fighter action, which you can get that. Jet fighter action and that kind of stuff is a dime a dozen today. Anything that made that movie special is so long gone, dead, and buried. I mean, like, I can be honest. The movie sucks. It was great in its day, but the movie stinks. It's horrible. It's shit. It is a turd on a stick that you can't even throw. I mean, you can't even toss it away. Because unfortunately, it's like stuck in everybody's mind. Somebody thought, and I don't understand who the fuck this person was. Somebody thought that today, what was it? It was 1986, 2020. This is almost what 35 years, 30 years later. I mean, this is over 30 years later. Have I got that right? Yeah. Somebody thought that people actually, that people wanted a Top Gun 2. I call bullshit on anybody that's like excited about this film because they're running completely off of a movie. Again, that is basically meaningless and nothing. I mean, and I cannot believe that you're even going to get like this tremendous airplane action. You see so many things in theaters now that blow away anything that like what was that movie, Stealth? Remember that with Jamie Foxx that was basically an advertisement for the F-35? I mean, who even remembers that besides me? Nobody cares. This is a mindless, meaningless, like nobody fucking asked for this. It's so weird. Hollywood is just grasping at straws. Like trying to find something that the people look, and it kills me because like I even saw people getting excited about, all right, now look, like I said, the music for the original Top Gun's fantastic, right? Kenny Loggins, Danger Zone, Cheap Trick's Mighty Wings. Hell, I've played Mighty Wings on this show. In fact, it was that episode because it's a cool song. Harold Faltermeyer, who I think is a tremendous composer, one of the top composers and most recognizable composers out of the 80s. Nobody knows who the fuck he is because nobody's bothered to hire him in 30 years. Over 30 years. It's insulting to the man. But they're playing like this epic version of Harold Faltermeyer's, Top Gun theme, which is a great theme. They're playing it during the trailer, and I'm like, oh, if Hollywood gave such a shit about Harold Faltermeyer's music, why haven't I heard him scoring stuff forever? And the fact is that they really don't care. It's this pure bullshit nostalgia play, and this has nothing to do. It's nothing to do with Hollywood ruining my nostalgia. There's nothing to ruin. The movie sucks. The original movie's horrible. Let's be honest. Cool sequences. Okay, but, we're well past all that crap. Anyway, they don't care about Harold Faltermeyer's music. Oh, I mean, they made a big stink about, we're bringing back Harold Faltermeyer. No! He's co-writing music with Hans Zimmer. Hans Zimmer's going to do most of the music, for fuck's sake. They're not even going to try to make this sound like an 80s flick. That's insulting. That's fucking insulting. So, and it's going to end up being some love letter to the military, and somehow I guess it won't be sexualized, which granted, the gal who played the love interest, the civilian contractor in the first film, she is like the person not coming back. They got Val Kilmer to come back. Tom Cruise is back, and fuck seeing a Tom Cruise movie, quite frankly. That guy's such a whack job. Like, I mean, I really like the Mission Impossible movies, but frankly, I'm tired of lining the coffers of that asshat. So, anyway, the love interest gal isn't coming back, A, because Hollywood doesn't like old women for some reason, which is insulting as well, but B, the military probably said, no love story. Don't make this sexy. You're not allowed to do that. whatever. I mean, the military's not sexy anyway. And if you think it is, you've got more, problems in your head than Tom Cruise does. But regardless, I couldn't believe it. I'm seeing this and I'm thinking to myself, this is so like this movie has no point. I will be in awe if this movie does money. If there are people excited about this film, it just shows how people just do what they're told and they have no independent thought, how most people are that way. I mean, maybe some people out there you were really into Top Gun because of the style of it and everything. I don't think you're even going to get that back in this movie. I don't think it's going to live up to that style from 86, even though they did show, more of the seeming like the volleyball scenes, which, that was more the cool moments in the movie from back then. Right. But I mean, seriously, take a minute. If you really need to rewatch Top Gun, and I want you to tell me what the plot is, what is the actual plot. I want you to tell me who the actual antagonist is. I mean, give me names and give me this whole breakdown. And you're going to look at it and you're going to realize, wait a minute, this movie, there's nothing here. There's nothing going on. Yep, there's cool flight sequences, but even those are piss poor compared to anything that comes out today. That doesn't mean you don't respect old shit, and that things can be a product of their time and still be great for their time. That's part of why I still appreciated Top Gun for what it was. But to make a sequel for that now, meaningless. Fucking meaningless. Hollywood just throws away money. Half the time, I think they make these movies. Again, folks, we have stories. We have tech stories to get into. We got all kinds of stuff to get into. But half the time, I think Hollywood will just make these films because they have some kind of contract that it's cheaper to make the movie than it is to lose the rights to the franchise or the film or for the contract to go out. That's the only reason I can imagine why some of these films get made. It's fucking weird. Who thought this was a good idea? And it just goes to show the complete lack of creativity in Hollywood. I mean, that we've talked about over and over again. I mean, if you wanted, I've talked about this on Q&As. If you wanted proof that entertainment is largely dead, the fact that there's a second Top Gun movie in 2020 should prove the point. That's how bad we are. We have to make Tom Cruise act like he's 20-something again and act like he's some kind of hot shit in a jet fighter. That's how bad the entertainment industry has gotten. That said, we do have actually a movie to review later on, and that'll get interesting and might, I'll explain why it stands out from that statement of the idea that entertainment is dead. Anyway, let us move on to some of our tech stories, and then we have we have some big stories to get into through our various segments throughout the show. But, here we go. Facebook is finally in. Now, we talked about this recently. Of course, one of our favorite subjects is Facebook, right? I'm being facetious. But Facebook, we talked about how they at F8 announced, actually it was before F8 this year in 2019, that they were talking about wanting to unify their messaging platform to where if you use WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, or Instagram Direct, that they would all interact with each other and you could message somebody as long as they were on one of those. We are seeing signs now. Reports are coming out that this is getting very close to being a reality. For one, the Instagram Direct team and the Facebook Messenger team are now one team. They are now the same team. WhatsApp seems to still be separate, but what's leading towards this is now there is a complete rebranding going on across Instagram and WhatsApp to where now when you go, say, to the Play Store or the App Store on iOS, it's going to say Instagram from Facebook. And then it's going to say WhatsApp from Facebook. So it's not just going to say WhatsApp. It's going to make sure you know that these apps are owned by Facebook. Now, of course, if you've been listening to Sovryn Tech for a while, you already know this. I can't believe most people don't know this. I mean, I got to tell you straight. I get it. Personally, I'm happy that this is happening because then every time that some story comes out about the bullshit that Facebook is pulling on a daily basis, to say nothing of fucking Libra, fuck that. Maybe it'll be Libra from Facebook. That would be great. That way, I mean, basically putting that Facebook logo next to anything that they own is, and notice they're not doing that with Oculus, but regardless, should be a warning sign. And I think it will come off as a warning sign to people. But then, again, this is me playing it straight. I can't believe, like, if I was Facebook, I would, I'd be separating, or at least creating the illusion that Instagram and WhatsApp are completely separate products from Facebook proper. Now, maybe Facebook is doing this partly because they have to, because Facebook.com and the Facebook app proper are getting rid of like the news feed and a lot of this other stuff. And it's all, concentrating on groups and Messenger. So maybe they just want you to know that Facebook as a company still exists, even though Facebook as we've known it is finally starting to die off, which I couldn't be happier about. Okay. But I think overall, this is a dumb ass move on Facebook's part, which is a win for me. And I would argue the Sovryn Tech audience, because all of us should just completely delete our Facebook accounts, regardless of product, that it is, other than perhaps Oculus. Because again, that's a very different animal that is still running largely independent. And you have people involved with that product that I think you can still trust. But because again, understand, Oculus wasn't originally a Facebook property, and Oculus isn't part of the problem with Facebook is the collection of data, and that social media in and of itself inherently is a problem. Okay. It is something that works, in my opinion, against human nature and the human condition. Listen to past episodes of Sovryn Tech if you want to hear what that's all about. Believe me, we talk about it often enough. I'm not going to rehash that here. Oculus stands separate from that, in which it's mainly trying to become a game console, which, it's again, completely different. But again, it's a win in my book that maybe it'll inspire more people to delete all of their Facebook products. And, we can stop hearing from people that say, oh, I deleted my Facebook account, but I still have Instagram. I still use Instagram, et cetera, et cetera. And we can just get rid of it entirely. But yeah, it's a dumb move. It's a really fucking stupid move on their parts, because most people, like I just said, they don't see a problem with Instagram, or they don't see the problem with WhatsApp so much, but they know there's a problem with Facebook. And now they're just putting it, pun intended, in their face. Very strange. Very strange. So anyway, not much else to say on that, but wow, what the fuck? Here's another little warning, talking about warnings. There was a nasty headline. And unfortunately, where's the real problem here? The real problem is that a lot of people are dumbasses, as we said earlier, and they will never read a story past the headline. Well, here's where the danger comes in with that. And not only that, this is where a problem went beyond even the headline. This was a story that was posted, this was end of July, which we're in right now, or no, we're in the beginning of August now. But anyway, end of July, which we were close to. In fact, I think it was like July 23rd when they finally put out an update. But a story by Sam Rutherford here, which the headline was, initially when it was published, was, "You might want to uninstall VLC immediately." Now, VLC, of course, is the VLC media player, which I have been recommending for years on Sovryn Tech. It is quintessential software for varying reasons, one of them being security, which is what they seem to be talking shit about here, or what Gizmodo seems to be talking shit towards about here. But on any platform that you use, I even have VLC on an OpenBSD machine. Okay, that's how much I install VLC wherever I go. I have it on my Android smartphone. I have it everywhere. So what is this horrible thing? What is going on that we should uninstall VLC? Just read the headline. Let me give you the headline again here. You might want to uninstall VLC immediately. If you read that, just read the headline, did not bother to go into the story. Yeah, it's saying might, but, you would say, if it's saying immediately, holy shit, this has got to be serious. Like my life is fucked if I have VLC on my computer. And a lot of people, I bet, unfortunately, went and uninstalled VLC. Well, let's go on a little bit with the story that they brought up. But anyway, here it is. So, discovered by German security agency CERT Bund, a new flaw in VLC listed as CVE 2019-13615 that has been given a base vulnerability score of 9.8, which classifies it as critical. The vulnerability allows for remote code execution, which potentially allows bad actors, bad actors and attackers to install, modify, or run software without authorization, and could also be used to disclose files on the host system. Translation: VLC security hole could allow hackers to hijack your computer and see your files. So RCE, which is remote code execution, Stallion breaking in here. This is the big scary that if you ever hear about, like, there's lots of exploits out there and they're still taken very seriously, and you should take them seriously. Tape over your USB ports, whatever. Okay. Anyway, it's not a perfect solution, but it's something to help ward things off. Remote code execution is a real problem because this means that basically an attacker, a bad actor, can remotely inject something onto your computer and, own your ass, right? Digitally. Which your separation between digital and real life is basically non-existent these days for most people. So that is a scary thing to consider. Okay, here's the problem. And Twitter, now if you follow me on Twitter at Sovryn Tech, if you follow me on Twitter, I was retweeting about it because VLC sees this headline and they go, what the fuck are you talking about? And they started saying, whoa. Like, this problem wasn't even this security flaw or this exploit that CertBund found had nothing actually to do with VLC. It actually had to do with a third-party library, which VLC contains a lot of these, but it was a third-party library called libebml, okay, libebml, but it was fixed over a year ago. And so the only thing they can imagine is that CertBund was fucking around with an older version of VLC. But the coders for VLC, the guys that actually work on VLC, very small team, okay, that basically does this in their spare time. They didn't do anything wrong. It was just, again, it was basically a codec, okay, which, again, to play various media files on your computer, it takes a bunch of different codecs, FFmpeg, the MP3 codec. I mean, a lot of this different stuff. So it's basically one of those, but it had already been fixed a long time ago. But the damage had been done because, Gizmodo is still, unfortunately, I mean, I even quote their stories from time to time on this show, just because, sometimes they're the only ones covering certain stories. But also you have the problem that online, somebody big enough like Gizmodo, which is owned by, which is cohorts with like Lifehacker and a lot of other online properties. Okay. They, what someone of their size, a media outlet of their size online, when they tell a story, then suddenly, your CNETs and everybody else will come out with this crazy story and everybody just starts jumping on it. Now, I've warned many times on Sovryn Tech that you don't want to talk about a security exploit. Often you don't want to talk about it right away unless you got to be really, really certain about it. Okay. I mean, the best thing you can do is just keep your shit updated as often as possible, whatever it being, apps, operating system, etc. Okay. I mean, there's certain, you don't want to say that across the board. Okay. Like, there can be problems with, where if you update Windows 10 instantly, suddenly you find out that there's some nasty 0-day, or there's a flaw with Windows that they didn't realize. And then because you updated it so quickly, if you just waited a couple days, they would have put out the patch that kind of fixed that, or that kept that from happening, blah, blah, blah. I mean, you got to be careful with saying these things, carte blanche. Okay. But overall, you want to keep your shit updated. Okay. And VLC is certainly one of those pieces of software that you want to keep regularly updated. Fortunately, VLC has its own update checker and does a very good job, with that. But regardless, okay, you don't want to talk about, I talk about security exploits all the time, but I'm usually pretty careful and I'll often wait a week before, and this goes beyond talking about exploits. This goes as far as any real kind of news. You want to chew on it, you want to sit on it a bit and see if you can find out the reality, because, these websites like Gizmodo, they thrive not off of you being secure or off of you being informed. They thrive off of you clicking on their website and getting their ad impressions, right? That's all they really care about. And so putting out a headline like, you might want to uninstall VLC immediately is something, holy shit, what's going on? And you want to click on it and find out. And even I have the link in the show notes, for this episode. But that's all they really care about. They don't really care about whether or not, VLC is doing okay on your system. They just know, ooh, this could be a hot story because it's a very popular piece of software. And part of the problem here is, so again, a lot of people, don't even go past the headline. And if they read the story, it all seems perfectly legit, but then nobody bothered to see, what's VLC saying about this? What are they doing about this? Because if it's their software, you kind of want to find out, what's their reaction before you really jump on anything? Well, their reaction is that Gizmodo's full of shit, so's Cert Bun, and, again, the damage is done because the headline's out there, and what the fuck are they going to do? And they can retract it. Like now Gizmodo says updated, maybe not at the end of the headline. But that wasn't until well after VLC tried to do some kind of social media campaign that I tried to help out with on Twitter, saying, hey, what do you guys, and they had a lot of nasty tweets towards Gizmodo that were totally justified because Gizmodo did not do their due diligence. Gizmodo should have reached out to VLC, gotten a response from VLC in the first place, and VLC could have told them before they even published the story, and I'm sure they would have responded very quickly, especially if, I can understand where journalists would kind of threaten a little bit and say, look, respond to us within 2 hours or I'm going to have this story go live. I guarantee you VLC would have responded and said, wait, this isn't true. This was fixed 16 months ago. This isn't happening, and VLC did their due diligence on their side. Gizmodo, again, you could argue that they updated the story later on. They updated the headline, but they clearly didn't do their job right in the first place by trying to verify this. And again, I don't believe for a second that they really give a rat's ass about your security. They just don't. All they want, as long as you click on it, it doesn't matter what the fuck they post. They just want you clicking on that shit. But this is the warning that's how, not new for Sovereign Tech listeners, but it's just a great example of how this happens. That's the warning of you've got to go beyond the headline. You've got to look to see, what did the actual people that make the software happen to say? Now, if a media outlet says, okay, well, we reached out to Intel after, I don't know, Spectre happened, Spectre and Meltdown. We reached out to them, to find out, to get a response. They have not responded yet, and they had reached out to them, say, so many hours previous. Okay, fine. Then the media outlet can come out and say, hey, this is going on. Yikes. But I cannot believe that they reached out to VLC before they published this, and VLC just ignored them. I just don't believe that. I don't believe it that happened. In fact, I'm fairly certain that didn't happen at all. And that's all about just having journalistic integrity. So they created a big stink, a big scare over nothing, over what is really a great piece of software. And VLC really is. I don't want because I do care about security. It's why I do this, part of the reason I do this fucking show. Okay. I don't want other people using apps besides VLC. The reason I've recommended VLC for so long is because it's a largely sandboxed app. Okay. And it doesn't install all of those codecs, which are part of the problem here, but it doesn't install all of those codecs, operating system wide, which used to be a problem that you'd have to do that. And what would happen is people would go to torrent sites that didn't fucking know any better. They download some porn that's like a WMV file. Thankfully, those are largely dead. Okay. But that WMV file would sneak its way into the entire operating system, basically, through Windows Media Player back in the day. And then you'd end up with, some kind of malware or some kind of, virus of some kind. It was so commonplace as to where what you could do at the time back then. Okay. And we're talking, 5-10 years ago. What you could do at the time is if you used VLC, what would happen is when you'd open up, if you associated VLC with Windows Media Video Files, WMVs, or any, whatever the extension is, whatever the codec is, if you opened it with VLC, it would show up as just a bunch of colored bars and you'd know that it was actually a malicious file. That's why I've recommended VLC for so long, because it's great security. It is just one more bulwark, it's one more, it's just bolstering your system even more. And so for Gizmodo to pull this shit just for the clicks, fuck them. Really, fuck them. That's such bullshit. I mean, and they don't even argue for why it was such a great idea to use VLC. Of course, I mean, and it's not, actually, it's not like Gizmodo or any of their adjoining properties are afraid of talking about porn. They do that all the time. So I don't fucking get it. Anyway, it was a dumb story, and they did not handle it well. And I'm glad that VLC got out right in front and started giving Gizmodo a lot of shit about this, because it was absolutely deserved. But yeah, when you hear about these exploits, okay, sit on them, breathe a little bit, try and find out the reality, go to more than one source of information, pay attention to if the multiple sources of information, say you go to Gizmodo and Hacker News and Ars Technica and whatever, if they all kind of read the same, like they're reading from the same, the same gospel of some kind, be careful of that. Pay attention for that. It is so important today that you pay the fuck attention to the news sources, to the news that you're reading. It's not about, Trump fake news crap. It's just understanding that the incentives for these news organizations is not to give you great news. It's to get you to click and go to their fucking site. Okay. You got to pay attention to this. Really. So anyway, moving on from that, I was going to say we can get into our story of the week, but I had one last bit in the foreplay where we just talk about all the little stories. Google is AlphaGoog, right? Alphabet/Google. Don't forget that. Don't forget about Alphabet. They're all the same company. Even if it's under Alphabet's umbrella, that's just it. It's an umbrella corporation. Oh shit. Woo. Anyway, Google is coming out with what they call Play Pass, which is for Android. It's for $4.99 a month. They're testing this right now. But it is basically a subscription service that you can pay for, to where you can get access to premium apps, as in apps that normally cost money. And I think they listed off as hundreds of them. There's a link in the show notes if you want to read more. But for $4.99 a month, you can get in perpetuity. Okay. You're going to pay this for the rest of your life. You can get access to premium apps. People are talking about this like, oh, this is going to be the future, blah, blah, blah. Google wasn't the first one to do this. Amazon did this with Amazon Underground. They did this, 4 or 5 years ago? This is old news. This is an old trick. There's nothing innovative here. Okay. B, Amazon Underground was not long for this world. So I don't know why Google thinks that it's actually going to work for them. Most apps are not just where you pay a flat fee and you get access to it. Most apps have a subscription service of their own. It's not clear whether or not you're going to effectively pay for their subscription service. If you do this, the bulk of the money made off of apps doesn't come from a subscription service. It comes from in-app purchases where you buy some kind of digital coinage, okay, within a game, say, and there's no information as to whether, with the tests that are being done with Play Pass, there's no information if it's going to give you access to unlimited funds within the game, which is what Amazon Underground allowed you to do, and why people even bothered to try it, but I guess Amazon just wasn't making enough money off of that fact. This is more of, Silicon Valley companies realizing that if they make a great piece of software, okay, and you charge for it, which is what's traditionally been done for the past few decades, the great software basically has already been made. I bring up the example all the time with Photoshop, right? The average person, and even, I would dare say your industry professionals, and in fact, my co-host, Rob, he can correct me if he wants to, but I mean, like, the new features in the latest version of Adobe Photoshop are fucking pointless. Most people can get away with Photoshop CS2, which is probably going on a decade old now. And you don't even, well, anyway, I'm not going to get into that conversation, how they shut down the verification server. So you can basically install CS2 for free. Yeah, it's all horseshit that they're offering you. And even Photoshop's trying to get you on some kind of, subscription service because they know that they cannot develop enough new features, if at all, anything worthwhile to suggest you buying the app again or paying for the new version and so on. And this is true for operating systems as well, which is largely why, you don't pay for Windows 10 or why people didn't pay for Windows 10. This is how these companies are trying to make money. Now, Microsoft has been somewhat successful with this with Office 365, but then there's a major value proposition that comes with that. Access to, Office itself, as well as, OneDrive and a lot of other things that they've been kind of baking into that, even though I think that they've kind of failed at some of what they were planning on offering into it and they've backpedaled on. But regardless of that, I mean, there's some places where this seems to make sense, but it only seems to make sense in places where you would generally pay, like Microsoft Word and Excel are so deeply ingrained in the enterprise space, in the business realm, that, and normally Office, the new version of Office, and yes, they do bullshit updates in Office too. I'm not suggesting that they don't, but normally, they charge a few $100s, or for an enterprise license, it gets into the thousands of dollars and so on. Office 365 makes sense. It is, in many ways, it's actually cheaper than the model that existed previously for paying for Office software. And you get a lot more than you used to with Office software, right? So the value prop makes sense. And I think that's why Office 365 does billions of dollars. But everybody else's subscription services, no. I don't think anybody's really interested. If you fall for this, unless they're going to give you like a lot of the, in-game currency for a lot of these, quote unquote, free to play games, I don't see the value prop here. I don't think that it's not going to work for them, and it's probably not going to get out of the testing stage. Don't fall for this. I've covered, in fact, there have been Zomia 1 Underground episodes where I've done complete like Android loadouts of what to get. And a lot of that covers premium software, but it's software you pay for once and boom, and you're done. And I can do, if I really, you got to understand this. Now, fuck the smartphone. If you didn't get that message on last week's episode of Sovryn Tech, I can give it to you again. And actually we'll double down on that message when we talk about Netflix here in a minute. Okay. Fuck the smartphone. But I can actually, right now, and with spending well under $50 on software, I can do, and that's a flat fee. There's no subscription service there at all. I could do just about everything that I do on my desktop computer on a smartphone. Okay, I could get away with that. Even recording this podcast. Would it be as easy? No. Nowhere near. But I could still do that. Okay, I could run everything that I do, handle my clients, blah, blah, blah. I could do all of that right on an Android phone. I really could if I wanted to. But it's not convenient. It's a pain in the ass. The screen doesn't, even if it was a 7-inch screen, it doesn't make sense. There's plenty of problems with that. But point being is that everything you could really want to do with a computer, you could do without paying for a single subscription service. Okay, on a smartphone. So I just don't see where this is going to take off. So I bring it up. I mention it. There's nothing innovative here. It's not interesting. It failed for Amazon. I cannot imagine why it's going to work for Google. Fuck Google. Fuck smartphones. And before we get into that, well, hell, we're talking about fucking. Let's talk about fucking, folks. What I want to tell you about Sovryn Tech sponsor, Blue Chew. Are you having problems? Look, I'm just, talk about talking straight. Let's just say it. Are you having trouble getting your cock hard? There, I said it. You having trouble getting your cock hard? Let me tell you about Blue Chew. Blue Chew, it's a chewable. Okay, it's a chewable, not a pill you have to swallow. Not into swallowing? Okay. You don't have to swallow. This is it's a chewable. It's blue. Blue like, it's a blue, it looks like a blue pill, but it's chewable. Okay, BLUE, chew. Blue Chew has the same active ingredients as Cialis and Viagra, so this action's going to go. If you are having trouble in the bedroom, you want to please the lady or the guy, you want to rock that shit, trust me, Blue Chew's got your hookup, okay? In fact, maybe it's not just that you're having trouble. Maybe you just want to enhance your performance in the bedroom, baby. Go ahead, you pop some Blue Chew, okay? Go to bluechew.com, you pop that, you're going to see what I'm talking about, okay? I mean, just try it. Try it. That's all I'm going to say is try it, okay? Not going to make it, just try it. Bluechew.com. What I want you to do when you go to that website, again, it's just like the color, blue, B-L-U-E, chew, C-H-E-W, because it's a chewable, bluechew.com. I want you to go to that website, use the code TECH, T-E-C-H, like Sovryn Tech. Use the code TECH, Okay, and you're going to get your first order for free. How can you go wrong with that? $5 for shipping. That's it. You get your first order free. And man, are you going to get it on, baby? Well, that's what I'll stop. There you go. You want to improve. You want to, like me, I am all about performance enhancement, baby. I mean, that's why I go to the gym all the time. It's why I do so many things that I do. Blue Chew, performance enhancement, or getting you back performing, bluechew.com. Check it out. BLUchew.com. BLUEchew.com. Use that code TECH. Get it for free. $5 shipping. Jump on it. All right. Let's get into, we got that out of the way. So we're done with fucking. I'm never done fucking. What are you talking about? So, I wonder. Well, never mind. I'm not going to go there. Okay, where we are going to go is on our lead story. And we are going to talk about Netflix, as I said. So entertainment kind of being a theme in this episode, certainly true. So now if you follow me on Twitter, you saw me post about this, share this story. And the story I have is from Android Police, though I think it was The Verge that found out about it. And here's the headline. Okay, of course, we're going to go beyond the headline, just like we were warning. Netflix wants to use your physical activity data to improve video playback quality. What the hell does all this mean? Let's talk about it. There's nothing worse, reading the story, and there is an update to this. We're going to get to the update. There's nothing worse than watching your favorite show and having it pause to buffer at the most intriguing moment. Unfortunately, commuters can experience this quite often, but Netflix is trying an unusual way to solve this issue. Indeed, the company is testing how it can improve video quality while a viewer is on the go by tracking their quote-unquote physical activity. So what does this mean? And here we go. As highlighted in the tweet above, the app has been requesting access for physical activity data on some devices. Users even report, this is an important part, folks, listen in. Users even report it has been granted permission without their approval. When Ivan Mehta from the Next Web, sorry, it wasn't The Verge, it was the Next Web, noticed his Pixel 3 XL had the permission turned on, he reached out to Netflix to understand why. The company responded, it's experimenting. So look at this. This is journalism done right. They reached out to Netflix before they ran the story. And they said, hey, why is this doing this? Here is Netflix's response. That doesn't necessarily mean that it got any better, but at least this has journalistic integrity. The company responded, it's experimenting with a way to, quote, improve video playback quality when a member is on the go, end quote, without further explaining how it's planning to do this. It could be relying on Android Q's physical activity recognition permission to anticipate whether you're in motion and adjust its buffering accordingly. Of course, pay attention to the fact that Android Q can do this. Stallion breaking in on that. Reading on. The feature remains in testing for a limited number of users, and Netflix doesn't plan to globally roll it out for the time being. We'll continue to monitor the story and update you once we learn more about it. Now, Android Police did do an update, and here's the update from, this is from actually August 2nd, so very fresh, August 2nd, 2019. According to The Verge, this is where The Verge came in. I knew I read The Verge somewhere. According to The Verge, Netflix has ended the test and doesn't intend to roll it out more widely. The company has also shared neither the conclusions of its experiments nor details on how the data was used. Now, let's talk about it. So great, glad. Apparently they're not, at the very least, they're not telling you that they're rolling it out more widely. Again, they turned this on for some users without even asking their consent, as to where for some there was asking for consent. And I mean, this is something that's been slowly getting a little bit better. Again, it's a soft switch, so how much can you trust it, right? But it's slowly been getting better on Android, where app permissions become more and more granular, right? You remember when you used to install Facebook Messenger and it would just say, okay, can we do everything on your phone, include make phone calls and make text messages for you? Is that okay? And you didn't have the choice to turn any of those off. At least now Android supposedly allows you to turn some of those things off. Of course, that's really at the whim of Google, and maybe, as we talked about on last week's episode of Sovryn Tech, up to the app user, where there were apps. Remember last week we talked about towards the end of the episode where there were apps, over 1,000 of them, that figured out ways to bypass you turning off your location data and still get access to your location data. So again, that's the problem of it being a soft switch and not a hard switch that you turn off. Regardless, so Netflix says they're not going to roll this out, but I still want to talk about this. I still want to raise a bit of a red flag here. Okay? And not just a bit of a one. First off, one of the ways that, I mean, Netflix recently increased their pricing, and apparently a lot of people were mad about that and they walked away. Great. Okay, I'm glad people walked away from Netflix. First of all, Netflix collects a lot of data about you, all kinds of data. Now, while Netflix itself may not run ads like, say, YouTube does, as a video service, and first off, they've said that they may do that at some point. Don't think that that's not on their radar. But while they don't do that, that doesn't mean that all of the data that they collect about you on every fucking app. I mean, you think there's a reason that they put Netflix on goddamn everything from your television, your Blu-ray player? Hell, I bet your refrigerator has it, your smartphone, your laptop. In fact, hell, I bet somebody's dildo's got it on there. The reason that they want to do that is because all of the data that they collect about you, everything. I mean, and you think you could imagine that it might be the most monotonous metadata. It couldn't possibly mean anything. Oh, it means something to someone somewhere, whether they're selling it to advertisers, other tech companies, or to the governments around the world. You take your pick. Believe me, they are collecting that data about you and they are making money off of it and they are selling it and you are paying for that privilege. And apparently it's not subsidizing you much either because, again, there was a price increase with Netflix. So this physical activity data, while they may want to push on you some bullshit story about, yeah, we want access to your GPS and your physical activity. I mean, I get it, unfortunately, in the world where intellectual property is sadly a thing, copyright's a thing, copyright law is a thing, and those laws differ based upon geography. There can be an importance of knowing your location for Netflix, whether or not, because if you're in Canada, well, you can't access this show. If you are in, I don't know, somewhere in Europe, you can't access this show. If you're in the US, you can access this show. And that part of that has to do with regulations and legality, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I understand that. There's an argument and conversation to have around that, even though personally, as an anarchist, which I am, I don't agree with any of it, but I get it. Wanting your constant, persistent physical activity to the point of knowing whether you're getting up out of your chair, and oh yes, that's exactly what they're talking about, or knowing if you're on the subway, or knowing if you're whatever you're doing on a bicycle, who the fuck knows? And are there people who will probably watch Netflix while riding their bike? Oh, I don't doubt it for a second that fucking happens. And that terrifies the shit out of me as someone who walks around often in towns where bikes are going around. Please don't hit me, but I'm sure you will. All because you just had to fucking watch, I don't know, what Stranger Things season 3, that horse shit, whatever it is. Anyway, they will tell you this story. Oh, this is so we just know, like, okay, if you're moving, we're going to change maybe the video quality. We're gonna force a buffer a little bit more, force a little bit more offline data onto your device. That way, the streaming and there's no interruptions with your show. They can tell you that that's the reason, and maybe even there's a little bit of truth to that. But make no mistake that the reality about that is that Netflix wants to collect more data about you so that they can sell more data about you because it is getting more and more expensive to push more and more of these shows. And to say nothing, I mean, I could even get into the conversation that I don't even understand some of the shit that Netflix makes. Like, what the fuck is that new show with the gal from Battlestar Galactica there? That's absolutely horrible. It's like some kind of sci-fi reality show. I don't know, whatever. It's bad stuff. Even though I don't mind the actress at all. I think she's great. But you know which one I'm talking about because everybody's been ripping on this shit. Anyway, and even that's probably just because they probably had Katie Sackhoff under contract or something, and her name could sell something. And look, I like Katie Sackhoff fine, and she does great work. I mean, I hate the 2004 Battlestar Galactica about as much as I could hate anything. Is one of the banes of my existence because it's so terrible. But Katie Sackhoff's great. and she's done awesome stuff. I mean, she's been involved with Star Wars. I mean, so many great things. The show, Another Life. That was the name of the show. That's just horrible. Like, I don't understand the creative decisions that Netflix makes in a million ways anyway. I mean, it seems like they just throw money everywhere, but I guess they must be making that much off of the data that they collect about you. So, I mean, that's bad in and of itself, that they're going to sell data about you, and most people don't even realize that or think about it. They're just like, ooh, pretty colors on my screen, I'm watching TV. But that gets to the other real problem here. This is the real problem with this story. The fact is that if a lot of people, perhaps people like me and others, didn't raise a stink about this, and that this is absolutely insane, and the reason for doing this doesn't make any real sense in the world about wanting this data about you, Netflix probably would have rolled this out more widely because most people wouldn't pay attention. And the sad part is that I think this actually would be, even for Facebook's, or I'm sorry, they're both so bad, even for Netflix reasoning, that people would like, that's somehow something that Netflix might actually want or need to do. That might make sense for them to do. And what terrifies me about that is that, for fuck's sake, I make a joke about Netflix being a cult. If you are watching Netflix to the point that Netflix feels like they have to find new ways to buffer things while you're on the go, if you're watching Netflix that much on the go, what the hell is wrong with you as a viewer? You're not, and this is what I said on Twitter, you're not a consumer, you're a fucking addict. And I don't mean an addict in a good way, you're an addict in a bad way. You're worse than smokers. If Netflix has to fucking buffer shit differently and get access to all different kinds of data off of my device just so that you can keep your fix, what the fuck is wrong with you? People talked about, I remember, look, I've been around. I'm 38 years old. I've been around a little bit. I'm not old, but I've been around a little bit. I've seen a lot of technological change. And I remember when I was a kid, the dangers of, you're watching too much TV. Holy shit! Man, I mean, I remember my parents telling me that. Are you kidding me? I didn't have this is nothing compared to the apparent problem. If Netflix thinks that they have to do this, what I did as a kid watching too much TV is nothing compared to what people do today. For fuck's sake, they're watching this shit on the move. What kind of world am I living in? How is this even normal? How are you not saying, like, I want to see it. A part of me wants to see it. And it'd be a good thing that I'd have a smartphone with me, because I'd want to take a picture to look at for all time, or even video. Maybe I could get a little audio on it where somebody says to me while we're on a bus or something, and I hear somebody say, "Oh, God damn it, Netflix froze." Or I'm walking down the street, when I grew up in New York City, walking down the street and somebody complaining out loud about Netflix freezing. And I just want to stop. I want to put my hand in front of that person, and this will be helpful for them, because then the app can buffer. Okay. And in a few short seconds, maybe because holy shit, this stuff's beaming down from space. You can't wait 2 seconds. Okay. Whatever. Anyway, I'll give them the chance to buffer, but I just want to stare at them. I want to look at the kind of person that is walking or whatever, they are on the move and they are watching television like that, and they are freaking out about it because they can't. I want to take a picture of that person. I want to know, because I want to be able to show people in the future, this was the stupidity that humanity was engaging in close to 2020. In the early 21st century. This is how bad we got. Aren't we so thankful we're not that anymore? Because fuck, I hope that that's what happens, that we don't end up that way anymore. Holy hell, yes, Netflix. I mean, I used to say it as a joke. Now it is a fact. If you are concerned about the consistency of your video playing while you are in motion, you have a problem. You are an addict. You are a cultist. Because you are spreading your message wherever you go, whenever you go, at all times. And that is the definition of a cultist. Great fucking Satan, what is wrong with you people? And then I get told there's something wrong with me because I say great Satan. Oh, please, please. I mean, I get it. You know, there's nothing. I mean, even, actually, Google kind of did it right. They, because if you pay for the YouTube Premium service, right? I don't like to give Google any credit, but if you pay for the YouTube Premium service, you can have the videos play in the background. Now, that makes sense because there's instructional videos, there's, documentaries and all this other stuff that maybe really just fits in better, or hell, there's even podcasts that get put on there that maybe fits in well so that you're on the go, but at least Google gives you the fucking option to turn off the screen and just listen to the audio, because that's what a healthy human being does when they're walking down the street, okay? Or, I mean, shit, whatever version of motion that they're in. Don't figure out how to, I mean, does Netflix even care at all about the lives of their users, of their subscribers? Because if this is a thing that's happening, and I'm sure, again, Netflix, they're collecting all that data. They do know when you're in motion. They do probably have access to GPS, and they know when you're watching it, and if you're watching it for excessive amounts of times, they should either A, be terrified that you're still on your fucking ass that long during the day because you've been watching for 18 goddamn hours, and it's like, holy shit, do you ever get up and, I don't know, hopefully you're on some kind of like and they should know this, are you on a treadmill? Hopefully, because that treadmill probably has Bluetooth and can connect to the phone, and Netflix probably knows that data. I mean, at the very least, if you're not, if they don't know that, they should recommend to it, hey, we see that you really like Netflix, why don't you buy a treadmill? We'll give you a great discount on it, and so you can stand on that and at least do something to exist and be a human being and be remotely healthy. Would they recommend that? Or maybe when they have this data, they could say, wow, we noticed that you're moving at about 75 miles per hour going down the highway. You should turn this fucking shit off. No, instead they just wanted to buffer better for you. This is mass madness, you maniacs. I don't care if Netflix turned this off. The fact that they even thought it was a good idea in the first place should terrify the fuck out of everybody. And the fact, and again, I think the reason that they did it is based upon data that they had already collected, that people were doing this and they were complaining about it. Holy shit, give me the names of the people. Netflix, fine, you collect this data, you help me out, I'll pay for it. I want the names of the people who were on the go, who are watching your shit. I want the complete list, because I want to know who the fuck to stay away from. Because those people are probably going to run into me at some point. My life's on the line. Please, for all of our sakes, post those names publicly if you care about us. Terrifying. I'm not kidding. Some people use that word, they just toss around the word terrifying. No, this is terrifying. If people are that hooked, don't even give me that shit about, oh, well, they said the same thing about radio. Oh, they said the same thing about TV. Oh, they said the same. No. This is a whole other fucking level of people being goddamn addicted, ignoring reality, and because of that, fucking all of us. Fuck Netflix. Cancel your subscription. Go ahead. Pause the podcast. Give them the message. At the very least, if you don't have a Netflix subscription, great, good for you. Look at the person to your right and to your left and do a little bit of public service, okay? But it's called egoistic altruism, okay? As in, you're doing something that seems altruistic, but really it's for your own benefit. Look to the left and to the right and say, you know what? You should really fucking cancel your Netflix subscription and start laying it down. Why? Do that for me, okay? I'm going to take a break. You can take care of that right now. We'll be right back with some more Sovryn Tech. Woo! Hey, if you have a project that needs reliable cryptocurrency data, check out blocktap.io. Blocktap.io is a universal cryptocurrency API. You can get historical prices for Bitcoin and other digital assets that you can use to build charts and do market analysis. Blockchain data is also indexed, so you can get transaction statistics, address balances, and more for Bitcoin and other networks. Blocktap.io is free for personal use, and you don't even need to create an account to access the API. To get started, try some of the example queries on the homepage at blocktap.io. Again, that's blocktap.io, blocktap.io, and we thank them for sponsoring Sovryn Tech. Woo, let's get back to the show.
This week in blockchain.
It is time for This Week in Blockchain, but before we get into all that, the show's running a little long, I have so much more I want to get into. We got a great climax that I want to get into, talk about Hobbs and Shaw and all that, something that you better not fucking watch on the move, because that movie will really wrap your attention, and the explosions you see on the screen are going to happen in real life to you, so don't do it. But if you want to talk more about this, or maybe you just want to get it out to the whole world, hey, everybody, cancel your fucking Netflix subscription. You could call into the number 27 talk show in the United States, that being Free Talk Live. Go to Sovryn Tech sponsor, Free Talk Live, freetalklive.com. Go check it out. Runs 7 nights a week, 3 hours a night. I can't believe that. I could podcast every day if I wanted, and there have been months where I've done that. And I can talk for a long, long time, but somehow they pull this off 3 hours a night, 7 nights a week. And they do it 365, baby. It is amazing. You want it, and it's an open phone show. You can just call right in there. You can talk about whatever the hell you want to talk about. Talk about getting people away from the cult of Netflix. Save them from this cult. You understand? And don't be like Katie Holmes, okay, where she said, "Well, I'm so glad I left the cult that is Scientology, and I went and I embraced the arms of the Catholic Church." Oh, you did so much better there. Way to go, Katie. No, don't do that. And say, well, but I'll go to Hulu. No. Just get them to cancel this shit. End it. Okay? This is getting insane. God damn it. Okay. And there's no real value add. It's not like it's the Star Wars channel or the Star Trek channel or something like CBS or whatever. Fuck it all. Okay. But go to freetalklive.com to do that. Okay? freetalklive.com. And I thank them for sponsoring Sovryn Tech. And if you don't watch Netflix so much, actually, pop some of that Blue Chew, baby, and get in the bedroom. You can fuck instead of watch that shit. How about that? There's the real entertainment in life, baby. Live creativity and all the sensations you could possibly want that go well beyond the ears and the eyes. Well, if you're doing it right. Anyway, but and Blue Chew can help with that. BlueChew.com. All right, no, let's get into it. Let's talk about some blockchain, because a prediction that the man of tomorrow made years ago. In fact, you can look at the episode. It was, I think it had Apple Banks in the title. And my prediction, which was actually proved right earlier in this year, was, and we talked about it on Sovryn Tech, because when I'm right, I'm going to fucking tell you. And I'm right about Netflix too. So I told you, so do something now. Anyway, my prediction was that Apple was going to pull what I called a Mitsubishi in reverse. So a lot of people know the company Mitsubishi. Mainly they know them for their cars now, but they're also a major electronics brand around the world. And in the US, they had some success as far as that goes. But regardless, that's kind of that became their bread and butter well before they were even a car company. But before they were an electronics company, Mitsubishi was actually a bank. And we're talking, this is a company. A lot of people don't realize this with a lot of these, Japanese and Asian companies, is that some of them are on the order of 100, 150 years old. Nintendo is a company that's been around since the 19th century. But people don't think about that, but they were making Hanafuda cards, and Mitsubishi's been around for a very long time. They were originally a bank. Then they got into electronics, and they became an electronics company, and a very large one. And I would actually argue a pretty good one too. I had a Mitsubishi TV that lasted me for an HD TV for years. But anyway, I had said years ago, and this is basically when Touch ID and the credit card storage through Touch ID that Apple came out with, I had said, that was on the iPhone at the time, I had said they're going to pull a Mitsubishi in reverse, where right now they're a tech company, but they're going to become a bank. They're going to become a financial institution. And now, part of that was inspired also by the fact that they did not get hot and bothered, as many were hoping they would, about Bitcoin. Of course, Apple's relationship with Bitcoin, with cryptocurrencies in general, has been a very rocky one, where even recently, like, there were certain currencies they wouldn't allow on, like Jack's Wallet, as to where Jack's Wallet on Android allows for all kinds of there's no real restrictions on what currencies are there. I'm not saying that there aren't, but overall, you get my point. There is a difference. Also, for the longest time, iPhones, you could not install a Bitcoin wallet on iPhones. This is around like 2014, 2015, they were doing that. Eventually they would reverse that. There were wallets, like I remember the FIFA wallet, that basically got around that restriction by making it enterprise software, more or less. But this, Apple has been incredibly antagonistic towards cryptocurrencies. And that is very much happening again. And it is a play in them becoming a bank. As I said, none of the tech giants, even Microsoft has backpedaled on this. None of the tech giants are really interested in are interested in Bitcoin specifically, but also they're not interested in cryptocurrencies. Now, they might be interested in blockchain in certain ways, right? Like they might take a little bit of an interest in Ethereum, but then they're not interested in Ethereum as a cryptocurrency. They're not really interested in cryptocurrencies proper. Okay, now you have Facebook coming out with Libra, but then we know that that's not really, there's certain principles that we expect generally from cryptocurrencies, not all, but that we expect from them, where, that they are decentralized, peer-to-peer, and so on. Okay, where Libra is not living up to all of those in the ways that we're used to with varying cryptocurrencies, and certainly not with Bitcoin proper. And I do mean Bitcoin, not Bitcoin Cash. But anyway, so Apple, and I said that years ago, and I got a lot of shit for it. I talked at a lot of conferences, and I said, look, guys, I get it. I understand your passion. You want these companies to accept Bitcoin. You want them to be on top of it. They don't care. And even if they pretend to care for a little while, it's only to basically test how they can make it work for them, and it's not Bitcoin. And, I mean, look, I will be the first person, and I might even be the last person alive, to continually state, and I have continually stated since, before I was even recording Sovryn Tech, because I've been in the crypto space for a long time, that Bitcoin's future is always going to be bright, and it's always going to be brighter consistently. Just going in well into the future. I really think that that's going to be very much the case. And I could have a conversation around that, but don't confuse me what I'm saying here. I am just saying Bitcoin is not the thing. The point I want to make very clear at the beginning of this, before I talk about what Apple's doing. Bitcoin is not going to die because none of the tech giants are going to accept Bitcoin. And they're not. The tech giants are going to, proverbially die because they don't accept Bitcoin. Okay. And they will, I guarantee you they will ride that to the grave, because Bitcoin is just that thing that it is the antithesis of control, as to where Silicon Valley is all about control. Even when you're on the go and you got to get your buffered videos, right, baby? Just like we were talking about. But that's the direction this is going to go. So don't bother. The big takeaway here, before we even read the story, don't bother trying to get the tech giants to accept Bitcoin. Just work on Bitcoin. Lightning Network, all of it. Work on that. Concentrate on that. Make our own companies. We don't need Silicon Valley. We don't need the tech giants for this to do what we need it to do. Okay? But that said, Apple is once again being very hostile towards Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies in general. Here's a story from The Verge. And this is actually from August 2nd, 2019. It's very fresh. Apple Card restrictions include no jailbreaking or cryptocurrency purchases. And there was a new customer agreement that had been posted on August 2nd talking about it. Let me read a little bit of the story here for you. Apple has revealed more details about its upcoming credit card, and the Apple Card will come with one unique restriction and one not so unique restriction. Thanks to the card's customer agreement, which was posted publicly on creditor Goldman Sachs website. I'm sorry. Wait, let me read it again. Goldman Sachs. I know that's not right. That's not right. Goldman Sachs. Okay. Not Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs. Sorry. It makes me think of Smelly Man Sachs Goldman Sachs. Fuck, I can't get it straight. Anyway, all right, we'll keep going here. Website this afternoon. We know now the Apple Card won't play nice with a jailbroken iPhone. And according to Reuters, it will also come with a ban on purchasing cash advances and cash equivalents, with the latter including cryptocurrencies, casino chips, and lottery tickets. Well, I mean, that's not a surprise. You generally can't buy lottery tickets with a card or anything. Anyway, reading on, the crypto ban is not so unusual. It's rare to have a line of credit that can be used for cash equivalents. A number of states also have laws in the books that prohibits the use of credit cards for lottery, blah, blah, blah. It would seem neither Apple nor Goldman Sachs has anything in particular against cryptocurrencies, but Bitcoin and other digital tokens would seem to fall under the cash equivalence umbrella. As far as using the Apple Card on a jailbroken iPhone, Apple is requiring you to sign up for the card and be approved via the Wallet app on iOS, and the agreement says your device must be eligible to qualify. It looks like this will be the case even after you've been approved for and received an Apple Card, with Apple saying you will lose the ability to both access and manage your account if you do jailbreak your device. Anyway, there's wording on that. Now look, this is, I mean, if it's not abundantly clear, jailbreaking, okay, which means basically, like rooting your iPhone and allowing you to put on third-party software, a fine and dandy thing to do with a device that widely gets regarded as a personal computer or a supercomputer in your pocket, right? That's what everybody says. Well, a computer is supposed to allow me to install whatever software I want. No, Apple says you can't do that. Fortunately, Android still kind of can, even though that's running into issues as well. I mean, there's a big conversation to have around that. That scene has changed well over the years. But basically, one can make the argument that this has to do with security, right? Like a jailbroken iPhone might be able to do some very interesting things with the Apple Pay app and the adjoining Apple Card, where, I don't know, maybe you could send funds or have funds come out of nowhere, if you know what I mean. I mean, like, tricks could probably be pulled off. So I understand the argument for that. But basically, Apple Pay, or, the Apple Card, will not allow you to connect it to, say, Coinbase or whoever else is out there, and allow you to, buy Bitcoin or whatever cryptocurrencies that you happen to want. And this is, I disagree with The Verge here in saying that there's no signs that Goldman Sachs has a problem with Bitcoin, or that Apple has a problem with Bitcoin. I disagree. Apple, as we stated earlier, absolutely has a history of having a problem with cryptocurrencies, and Bitcoin in particular. This is not out of range for them. This is all about, they want their Apple Card to become the big shit, but they want absolute control of the money that's being funneled into the Apple Card and your spending to be traceable. In the instant that you say you buy Zcash, or if you buy some Monero, or if you buy Bitcoin and say you use Lightning Network with varying technologies, that you will have anonymous money of some kind. It's also why they're not allowing for cash advances with this. Again, that part's, and lottery tickets, that part's not so uncommon. But banning cryptocurrencies, this is absolutely about tracking your spending and your funds in general, and allowing them to, in whatever way, even though I know there was some interesting language around, there's no, percentages taken here or fees here with an Apple Card, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's for now. That's until they hook you in, and then they do the old bait and switch, right? Then they start hitting you up with the fees. This is all about control. This whole thing. Don't buy into, it's a broad user agreement, and so it just happens to fall into it. Look, if they were supportive of Bitcoin, they'd make sure they would put it right up top and say, with the Apple Card, you can start investing in Bitcoin, which would be a fine and dandy piece of financial advice to give, in my opinion. It'd be a great thing for Apple to say. They're never going to say that. No, because Bitcoin is a competitor to their larger goals as a company. Okay, when you have, like we were talking about earlier with Google, the Play Pass subscription services. Apple has their Apple News subscription. They have the Apple TV subscription. They have the Apple Arcade subscription for games and all this stuff. They want you hooked in to their payment system. Okay, and the best way to get you hooked into their entire ecosystem is to actually have your bank be them. the company that's even providing you the content or the software, or hell, I mean, with Apple, it goes so far as you even rent your iPhones now. You don't own your iPhone. You're literally renting it with a monthly fee. And for them to become the bank where it controls all of that and they can take it all away from you instantly, and then you become effectively, I'll use this word, you become their bitch. I mean, that's the ultimate in control, and that's totally what Apple's going for here. I think this is a completely hostile move against Bitcoin. Absolutely. To suggest otherwise, I mean, that you've got blinders on, or you're in Apple's reality distortion field. Now, can Apple stop Bitcoin? No. So at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. Bitcoin's going to continue on. Apple one day will fall, hopefully, just like all the tech giants. Okay, but let's keep that in mind. That you are, if you're digging Apple, I mean, just think about it. This is a company. This is the direction that they're going. And the fact that they're not wanting to play ball with other advancements in finance, which cryptocurrencies are, should lead to that they are trying to corral you completely into their ecosystem, from what you're holding in your hand to what's before your eyes, in your ears, that your thumbs are twiddling with, and ultimately what you can do, what you can buy. Control of your money. That should terrify, we got a lot of terrifying things. That's another thing that should terrify the fuck out of you. But you know what? I want to lighten this baby up. So why don't we go ahead and get to the climax? We'll take another quick break. Let's get to the climax. And, we can talk about something that fortunately was actually, I'll say it here. It was pretty fun. Let's talk Hobbs Shaw. I'll be right back with some more Sovryn Tech. Woo! In 2014, he ran from Miami to San Francisco, raising awareness for Bitcoin and the homeless epidemic in America. And now he's doing it again. Blockchain evangelist and advocate for homeless rights Jason King is running across North America right now, from Miami to Santa Monica, right now. 5 years later, his commitment to promoting blockchain technology and fighting the homeless epidemic in America is stronger than ever. And you can help Jason now by going to blockchainacrossamerica.com. While you're there, donate to Satoshi Forest Sanctuary Incorporated to help the homeless, along with all kinds of other ways you can help. Get involved today. blockchainacrossamerica.com. That's blockchainacrossamerica.com.
The climax.
And they say to me, man of tomorrow, how do you speak with such confidence? How do you get away with saying such things? Let me tell you how I get away with that. Because my only boss at the end of the day are the people that I get to entertain, and that's you. And inform. Entertain and inform. Okay? I don't answer. I don't have to worry about it. I mean, whenever I sign on a new advertiser, I always tell them, look, I'm going to say whatever the fuck I want to say. Okay. And it might be something that you might think isn't against, or is against the best interests of your product. I make that all abundantly clear with these people. All right? I absolutely will not be controlled. So I just get to say what everyone else is either strong-armed into not being able to say, because, we don't want to piss off all those iOS users. I don't fucking care. I'll piss off the Android users too. Fuck. Or, we can't make this company, we can't make this cryptocurrency mad. We can't do that. No. I can make them all mad. It doesn't matter. You're the only people that have any say or sway with me. And that's you, the listeners. And it's been that way for 7 years. Again, one of the longest running tech shows consistently in the world. Just straight up. And I'm going to be doing this, folks. You got to understand. I'm going to be doing this for a long time. Even when it might sound like, it's funny. Technology is such a broad word. And believe me, this has relevance to what we're going to talk about in the climax here, which is the part of the show where I get to talk about whatever the fuck I want to talk about. I mean, I'll do that anyway, like I just said. But this is where I make it a point, okay? And I can set expectations. If I want to talk about a movie, I can, which is what I'm about to do. Technology is a very broad term, you understand. I think today, when we think technology, we instantly think smartphone, maybe laptop, I don't know, TV, game console, whatever. But basically, I think you can get a little finer with it than that. If you, like me, if I talk shit about smartphones or if I talk shit about IoT devices, I'm considered anti-tech. What? Or if I talk shit about Netflix, oh, you're a Luddite. Oh, no, the fuck no. Or if I say, you know what, computers don't belong in cars, which, boy, watch the Fast and Furious movies, you're going to see my point about that, aren't you? But I've been saying it well before those movies dropped. If I say that, oh, you're anti-tech. No! Are you kidding me? Right next to me. In fact, holy shit, I just found out yesterday, actually, when Ellen and I, we had a beautiful day, beautiful Saturday. We went to, we went out to eat, had a beautiful breakfast, one of our favorite spots, went to Barnes & Noble, which, as you do when you're an intelligent person, you read books. Or at least I hope you do. It's better than Netflix, folks. Trust me. Believe me, your mind's eye is going to blow away whatever your actual eye could possibly ever see to this day, CGI or not. But, we were looking around in certain sections, and we have a little fun going into perhaps more of the occult works here and there. I don't think Ellen will mind me sharing that. And I saw a book I don't think it belongs there. I think it belongs in the history section, as serious and hardcore as it gets. I saw a new book from 2019 by Ahmed Osman. I love Ahmed Osman. Big fan. Talked about him many times on Sovryn Tech as well as on Zomia 1 Underground content, which if you want to get access to that content, just go to zomia1.com, look on the left sidebar. You can sign up, get your hookup. You're going to love it. Thousands of hours to listen to. If you want more of me, I don't know why you would, but if you happen to, it's significantly less than a Netflix subscription. You can pay as much as a Netflix subscription if you want. I guarantee you'll get more value, at least in your mind, but in your brain. But regardless, anyway, I talk about Ahmed Osman a lot, which he has a lot of very interesting theories. But in fact, this book that let me unlock it here, because I actually run a lock screen on my Kindle Oasis here. New Kindle Oasis coming out. The review of that to come. I guarantee you. So anyway, the book is, let's see, The Egyptian Origins of King David and the Temple of Solomon. And this is from 2019. I already started reading this today. I'm excited as fuck to see where it's going to go. And I mean, I'm only like 4 chapters in, and it's already, I just love what he's laying out. And it's great because Ahmed Osman's been writing his first book, Stranger in the Valley of the Kings. That came out with like 86, 87, right around when Top Gun did, and far better. But that book, actually, I made a digital scan of that because for whatever reason it's out of print, probably because it's got a lot of truth in it. But anyway, he's been able to update since 1987, a lot of his information, and I'm already just loving the hell out of that book. So check that out. Any of Ahmed Osman's work is worth your time. Anyway, let's get into what I actually want to talk about here. But yeah, we were going around Barnes & Noble and got that just bringing that up. But we went to the theater. We caught a little movie, and I am a huge fan. While I'll often say that entertainment is dead, the franchises that existed before entertainment became dead, many of them are still worthwhile. I still watch everything Star Wars. I still watch everything Star Trek, even though I think Star Trek Discovery has turned into, boy, talk about turd on a stick. I mean, wow, what a fucking mess that's become. But you can listen to my show, Sovryn Trek, or you can listen to TIE Fighter Renegades, all on Zomia 1, if you want to hear more of my thoughts on that. But a franchise has been around for a good while now. What was it, 2000, 2001, when the first Fast and Furious film came out? Of course, the series has changed dramatically since then. But these movies are consistently, in my opinion, these are about the only movies that you're guaranteed a good time if you go to theaters to go catch them, or if you just watch them and you've never seen them before. Not to say that every Fast and Furious movie is amazing. Like Tokyo Drift is good, but it's not good for the same reasons that basically every movie after Fast 4 or Furious 4, whatever you want to call it, every movie from that on became a whole other animal. Now, I'm not going to get into all of that here. In fact, maybe I'll do, if we have the moment and the time, maybe I'll do a Fast and Furious review episode on Zomia 1 with Ellen, because we actually rewatched the entire series in preparation for Hobbs Shaw. Now, you need to see, I think you can go see Hobbs Shaw just raw dog not familiar with Fast and Furious franchise whatsoever, and have a good time. I do think you can do that, and that's a credit to the movie. But to really understand everything about it, you have to watch most of the Fast and Furious films, and you certainly need to have seen the most recent Fast and Furious film, which is Fate of the Furious, or F8 as it's called, or Fast 8, or Furious 8. And we do have Fast and Furious 9 coming out in 2020, by the way, which I am all for that. But you do need to see that to have an understanding of who the characters of, certainly of who Deckard Shaw is, and why Deckard Shaw, who was a villain, I mean, spoiler alerts here, folks, okay? I mean, I'll put it out there. But who was a villain in Furious 7 is now, like, why is he playing a heroic character in Hobbs and Shaw? Also, I mean, even Luke Hobbs was more or less a villain, at least initially, was that in Furious 6, right? I think that's when he first came on the scene. So to understand the development of these characters, you really do need to see all of these movies. Now, I will say quickly, the reason that I think these movies are worthwhile is they follow, even though they're not actually comic book movies, and in fact, it's impressive just how little multimedia, as in other genres, other mediums, that the Fast and Furious franchise hasn't gone into. They really, I mean, they've done some video games, but not like many, you know, even though you have like the Need for Speed Most Wanted and Need for Speed Carbon, which were really ultimately Fast and Furious games without the moniker. Okay. But they haven't gotten into comic books when I think they could totally survive there. I know they have a Netflix show coming. Believe me, that is not going to be worth the time. It has to do with like some teenage, not even teenager, like preteen racers and all that. And I couldn't care less. But anyway, but these are really the quintessential comic book movies. In fact, I think they do comic book movies better than Marvel does, certainly better than DC in recent years. And they follow the formula where like each successive film, okay, I mean, the characters run off of, I don't want to say stereotypes, but archetypes, shall we say. They run off of like easily identifiable visual and audio cues as to who they are. And I mean, even within the film, they recognize that, right? Like there's the point where Ramsey says, okay, you're alpha male. She's Mrs. Alpha, you know, you're the comedic relief. I mean, and they basically within the movie, these movies are so self-aware that because they are otherwise fairly shallow, even though I would say that they are primal in what they put out there, like this notion of you're chosen, and keyword, chosen, family, okay, chosen, thank you. You know, like the importance of these things and how they affect us, you know, the very deep core parts of the human condition. I really do think they speak in that way. And that's why these movies are so huge. Understand that the Fast and Furious franchise is the number 3 most successful franchise in the world in history. The only two above it, number 2 are the Marvel movies, which of course there's like 3 or 4 of those that come out a year. So that's not hard for them to make a shit ton of money. And then above that, of course, is Star Wars, which started the idea of the blockbuster movie in the first place. So not surprising there, but it's number 3. It's above James Bond. It's above Harry Potter. It's above Star Trek. It's above a lot of these things. I mean, it's a pretty impressive feat for them to pull off. But I think the reason for their success is, again, they follow they touch on very primal subjects, and they do. And B, you know, I mean, like there's really tremendous action. I mean, that helps too. C, they follow the comic book formula in that, you know, you run off of the well-worn archetype, you know, character archetypes or character types. And then also you have a successive villain and you just keep upping the stakes where like, oh, you find out actually, no, there's a bigger villain, right? Like, you know, this character, Steppenwolf, is actually working for Darkseid and Darkseid's actually working for his dad. And, you know, and it just keeps building up to a bigger and bigger bad guy or bad gal, thankfully, in every film. And that's what they run off of. And I dare say they do it better than any actual comic book company in the world today. That's why Fast and Furious is so successful. Also, they have great directors and great writers. Like Justin Lin is a tremendous director, one of the best in Hollywood today, I would argue. And great actors. I mean, Vin Diesel's, yeah, he's Vin Diesel in just about everything he does, but he's good. You know, and Michelle Rodriguez, you go down the list, they get really great people. And even, you know, The Rock is what he is. And the most recent film, Hobbs and Shaw, is really a spin-off movie. And the full title is Fast and Furious Presents Hobbs and Shaw. This is Hobbs, of course, Luke Hobbs being The Rock's character, and Shaw, that being Jason Statham's character, Deckard Shaw. And it is those two, which you kind of got a hint of their tag team action, shall we say, in the most recent film, Fate of the Furious, where you saw them working together and their chemistry and how it went. And this film gives you more of that. I'll say outright, this is a very fun movie. It is, you could call it mindless. There is a plot. There is a well-set villain. In fact, it's Idris Elba, who is working for somebody bigger that, there's already been a tweet made by The Rock that says you'll find out who this bigger villain is, in a future movie. I'm not going to give you the whole plot here. Okay. That would take way too long to tell you, even though it's not like a very complex plot. But basically they have this, organization who is being represented by Idris Elba's character, which is a guy named Brixton, who is a superhuman. In fact, he keeps calling himself the Black Superman. He is a augmented human being. This is the Fast and Furious franchise openly getting into the science fiction realm. Even in the craziest technology that they've shown in previous film, like God's Eye, where it's something that could see what every smartphone camera and microphone has, or, the nightshade device. And all, these things are all very real things. Like they're not, or they're very possible if they're not actually real, or they're even in the development stages. As to where much of what, the augmentation that Brixton has, where he has like these things in his eyes and he can, detect the force of power of, say, The Rock, or actually it's Hobbs, the character of Hobbs, his punch, etc. Or he can like mentally control his motorcycle and all of this. These things are well into science fiction right now, still, okay? No matter how much people are working on it, really, it's still that far down the line. And so this brought science fiction into Fast and Furious, which I have theorized would happen anyway. In fact, I've said, among with other commentators, that I would not be surprised if by Fast 10, Furious 10, we end up with this franchise literally going into outer space. I totally believe that could happen, because each movie gets more and more ridiculous. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in a great way, that I could really see that happening. And the movie Hobbs and Shaw is going there. Now, something I've said also about the Fast and Furious franchise is that each movie, minus Tokyo Drift, gets progressively, and actually Too Fast, Too Furious as well, this is true for, basically ever since Fast 4, each movie gets progressively better. I totally think Fate of the Furious is the best Fast and Furious movie made to date. Can Fast 9 beat it? Probably. I would not say, and I know a lot of people have, I would not go so far as to say that Hobbs and Shaw is the best Fast and Furious movie. I'm not going to argue for that. It's one of the best ones and it's amazing how many there are, but it is not, it's not better than Fate of the Furious. I don't think so. In fact, I mean, we could start off talking about it here. I really felt like without Vin Diesel there, and without like more of a team, not just a tag team, not just, Shaw and Hobbs and Shaw, but without like a larger team, and certainly this movie is setting up for a larger team. You get some cameo appearances, spoiler alert, you get Kevin Hart, you get, what's that guy? He fucking annoys me. Ryan Reynolds. They're in it. I mean, it seems pretty clear they're setting up like an alternative team to go on with this spin-off. Look, I'm super supportive of there being spin-off movies and there being whole movies, even like more adult TV shows. Okay. For the Fast and Furious franchise. I'm totally on board with that. Build out this universe as much as you want. But so, this movie is great, but it really is, in my opinion, I felt like it was missing something without that family dynamic. And maybe it was just like even not having Vin Diesel there. I think they should have had, if you're going to have some cameos, at least have Roman come in, or, have Ludacris's character come in, like have somebody from the other movies should have made a quick pop, not just slightly newer characters like, Hobbs and Shaw, because they are fairly newer characters in the grand scheme of things. I think that would have been a win on their part. Even if it was Hector, right? The Hispanic guy who shows up in a couple films, but he was definitely most prominent in the first Fast and Furious film. That would have been a win. Just bring in somebody. or have Gal Gadot's character come back, because we don't really know that she's dead. I don't know, that just, or have, would have been great. Bring Han back, you know? I mean, because I get it why they kill off some of the characters is because in, you know, the Fast and Furious films, they want to bring in, like, they get new characters that are playing well with audiences better. So we want to keep them, and you only have so much time in a movie. I mean, look, they've been making these Fast and Furious movies progressively longer. I mean, they're to the point, they're almost 3-hour films now. Okay, because you have to get in all of these character moments and all of these characters. I think it would have been a win to bring back Gal Gadot's character. I mean, her and The Rock have a great rapport. They're making something for the Netflix cult. And they've done, well, I don't know. Anyway, but bring in Han, do something like that. Just something to attach it a little bit more to the Fast and Furious franchise. It felt a little disconnected. And I felt like, as much as, and believe me, I love The Rock. Okay. I mean, I really do. Hobbs in this felt like a very different Hobbs. And it's not just because his goatee was basically non-existent. He just he felt very different. He wasn't as matter of fact, by the numbers, you know, this is how we're going to do things. Like that wasn't there. And I'll point this out because as a theme that runs throughout Sovereign Tech, everything's fucking marketing. I guarantee you Netflix paid The Rock to wear that Motley Crue shirt because of their movie The Dirt, which I reviewed on the Hard and Fast podcast on Zomia 1, if you want to look back in the archives for that. I mean, I'm not saying The Rock doesn't have good taste in music, but come on. Like, I mean, it was really prominent that he was wearing the Motley Crue shirt. And look, I'm one of the biggest Motley Crue fans in the world. I mean, literally. Okay. That annoyed me. I knew what that was about. I mean, I was glad, you know, that's something. I'm not the biggest fan of rap music. I still kind of like the soundtracks overall from the bulk of the Fast and Furious franchise. I mean, if you're going to wear a Motley Crue shirt so prominently, why don't you fucking play some Motley Crue music in this? I mean, it wasn't so much rap. There were some different styles of music in this, thankfully, some EDM, some other things. But now Tyler Bates did the score, did the instrumentals, which he's done work in the Furious franchise previously. That was good. That was actually very good. I was just listening to that earlier today, and I really, really enjoyed that. Brian Tyler's also done great work within this franchise. The orchestral music, the instrumental music for these movies is very much overlooked, I think, by the fans. I'm glad we still get releases of those soundtracks because I love them, and I think like the Furious theme is fantastic. Or the Fast and Furious theme is really great. I wish that would have made some kind of an appearance in the movie. Basically, this really felt very different and separated, in my opinion. And it's not just the lack of the cars, because there were still there were cars moments in this. I don't know, something about it just felt very different from the rest of the franchise. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. It's just, it's noticeable. And I think this is a movie I'm going to have to watch a few times to really appreciate everything that's happening within it. It has the Fast and Furious comedy. It has the comedy you expect from The Rock, and between the characters of Hobbs and Shaw. That's there. Idris Elba's villain. I think Idris Elba's a great actor. I'm going to say this though. I don't get all of the prestige around Idris Elba. And I also don't get, I understand why The Rock is sexy. I understand why Vin Diesel is sexy. I understand even why I like Jason Statham, why you buy him as a complete badass. I don't really get Idris Elba's legitimacy. And I'm not arguing about it. I thought Idris Elba was great in Star Trek Beyond, and I've seen plenty of movies where he was, where his acting chops, he's great. But as far as being in action and a guy that he's supposed to be the big baddie, I don't get it. I don't see him what he exactly brings to the table. And I don't get his sexiness, because that's what I keep getting told about this guy, is that he's really sexy. I'm not knocking him. He's obviously talented, and I would have loved to have seen him as James Bond. And I'm not kidding about that. I think he would have made a great James Bond. And James Bond comes with a certain sexiness, but the sexiness doesn't really come with the actor. It comes with, it's James fucking Bond, right? Regardless of who the actor is, because Timothy Dalton's not fucking sexy. Are you kidding me? But he's James Bond, God damn it. So he's sexy. Yeah. So I didn't quite get that. He worked as a villain. He had more going for him as a villain. as compared to, and this is an area where Fast and Furious franchise shines, because like Marvel does a horrible job with their villains. Maybe Thanos they kind of deliver with, but by and large their villains are shit, and you don't really understand why they're villains. Fast and Furious gets very quick and to the point why their villains are villains and what they're about and what they want and what they're doing. And Brixton really delivered on that. But of course you find out he's part of this whole big organization called Aetion, which is all about creating, evolving humanity by combining it with, augmentations, with augmented technology and all this stuff. I want to have a conversation about that. We'll get into that, but I want to talk more about the movie. The action in it was very serviceable. It was fine. David Leitch was Leitch was the director. Now, David Leitch, I'm a fan of. I thought he did great work with Atomic Blonde, with Charlize Theron in that. There's a comment to be made there with that, but also I thought that he did a tremendous job with John Wick. This is a guy that can direct really great action. I don't think there was the direction was serviceable, but I didn't get the same great action that I got out of like John Wick and Atomic Blonde. Maybe because like Fast and Furious has to be so much bigger, and David Leitch really can't. Maybe he just can't do the bigger scale action. He can't do action at scale. He can do like the quieter moments, and some of that was really cool. Shaw's sister, played by Vanessa Kirby in this, which she did a really solid job, I thought. Yeah, I don't know. This movie is great, but there's a lot about it in context with the Fast and Furious franchise that just feels a little bit off. Again, I think I need to see it a couple more times to really allow it to sink in. That it's kind of like, speaking of Motley Crue, it's kind of like you have a sound that you expect from Motley Crue, and say when you get to like 1997. When you listen to Generation Swine, that album, when you listen to it the first time, you're like, that's not Motley Crue. But then after you listen to it like 10 times, you're like, oh, this is fucking awesome. This is some of the best Motley Crue ever. And I think I kind of need that with Hobbs and Shaw for this movie to really like sink in. But it did have a message that it was trying to get out there, and I can appreciate that. I really did appreciate, and The Rock has made no small point of this, on social media, I did appreciate the representation of Samoan culture. That is not something that you get often in movies. I thought that was, you get it a lot in wrestling. I thought that was a very nice touch. I was fucking annoyed as hell that Roman Reigns was in this movie. I appreciate that the guy was, recovering from leukemia and all that, but fuck, I cannot stand him in the ring, outside of the ring. And he didn't get a single speaking part. I'm just going to put that there, and it's probably because the motherfucker can't act, and I'm just going to say it. All due respect to him, I'm glad that he's alive and he's recovering from leukemia and all that. I'm just saying, God damn it. Like, I thought it was crazy that he was in it. I know we're getting John Cena in, Fast 9, but John Cena can act. He really can. Like, The Marine, for what it is, was actually a really good action movie. It really was. Like, I really appreciated that film. He annoys me as a wrestler because of the whole Super Cena mystique, but whatever. I know we're getting him, but like Roman Reigns, that just didn't make any sense to me. There was no point to having that. But that whole, I'll give them credit. They make again, spoiler alerts, they make a great reason for why, because you saw it in the trailers where they're fighting with traditional Samoan weapons, and it's like, this kind of traditional Samoan war action, I guess you could say. How do they take on like this augmented, or at least one person's augmented, but this, heavily armed, technologically advanced mini army that Brixton is leading? How do they take that on? How is that believable? They do a great job of making it believable. In fact, the idea of like coding guns to where they only work with like a chip in your glove, or maybe with your DNA or something like that, kind of reminds you of the great, and I mean it, great 95 film from Sylvester Stallone, that being Judge Dredd, also a great comic book, but where they had the idea that could be like not reverse engineered, but exploited, where you could effectively put out a, malware that would turn all the guns off. That's something to consider for the future, and something that actually gives me a lot of hope. The idea that we could turn off the guns, as they say. That's a very, very interesting. I know there's people who would say, well, that could be used against us. Well, it's a sword that cuts many ways. That's the nature of technology. Anyway, they did a very believable job with that. I got to give them credit. I didn't know how they were going to pull that off, but they pulled it off. So let's break down some of this movie. Then I want to get into a little bit of the message because I think there's a bit of a conversation to have around that. The music, good. Tyler Bates' score, actually great. But, the music selection otherwise it worked. It worked for the film. The acting, even though there's a couple of people that I wish weren't in it, the acting was great. I mean, Jason Statham does his thing, that he's been doing since we saw him in The One with Jet Li, which what a great movie. Seriously. He delivered on that. The Rock completely delivered, even though I felt like Hobbs was a very different character in this. The Rock is The Rock in whatever movie he is, just like Vin Diesel's Vin Diesel in just about every movie that he is. I mean, it's the same thing with Harrison Ford. A lot of the great actors, especially action actors that we can think of over the past few decades, Stallone, right? Except for maybe in Copland. You get that one movie where they're a little bit different. Like The Rock was it Faster? Not Fast and Furious, but just Faster, where I think he did some real acting, serious acting in that. But largely The Rock's The Rock. And that's fine. Because I like The Rock, I like the character, and and who he's, what he presents, not represents, but presents. I appreciate that, so that's okay with me. But it just felt off. It didn't really seem the same. I don't know. And so on all metrics here, it's actually a great film. And in fact, if I'm going to give it a score, I'd give it a solid 8 out of 10. And it's not I think now Fate of the Furious, I give that a 10 out of 10. I give this a solid 8 out of 10. If I watch it a couple more times, I might end up giving it a 9 out of 10 because there was really a lot to like about this movie. In fact, I love the fact that the Rock, or Hobbs, he quotes Nietzsche in it. And I've actually made this argument many times that the Fast and Furious franchise it's not libertarian. It's not, I don't know if I'd go so far as to even call it anarchist, but it is definitely egoist. As in Max Stirner / egoism. It is definitely egoist where, whatever character wants, that's the most important thing. And, like the idea of having a union of egoists, the family that Vin Diesel's character, that Dom Toretto creates is literally a union of egoists. As soon as somebody doesn't want to be a part of it, they walk away, and that happens many times throughout the films. So for Hobbs to quote Nietzsche is perfect. Because that's a consistent, if these movies had any kind of philosophy, and maybe they're not even aware of the philosophy that they're presenting, even though Fate of the Furious, Cypher, Charlize Theron's character, I think she very much has a philosophy, which you don't get that often, especially with villains. If there is a philosophy, this movie does stick consistently with that. I will give it credit. It does try to be a little more legit with them working with the CIA, but whatever. That gets back to what we were talking about earlier during Top Gun, how you don't get you to use military equipment if you make the military look ridiculous, or if you make, whatever version of authoritarianism look stupid. So that's been, that's something that even the Fast and Furious franchise, unfortunately, seems to pay a degree of fealty to, particularly with the character of Hobbs, often enough. But anyway, yeah, speaking of the messaging, so I appreciated that quotes. There are intellectual moments to this film. So to call it brainless, I think I understand why you want to call it that, because it's just a great popcorn flick where you see tremendous action and explosions, and all that is true. But there's actually stuff underlying this movie that come in kind of quickly. There's also a message, kind of what you could call an anti-tech message, that I want to talk about here for a second. There's a point where Hobbs, the Rock, says to the villain, Brixton, says to him basically that, you may have all the technology in the world, but we have all the heart. Like he makes this argument that when you start to put in so much technology into a human, they stop being human. Now, this is similar to stuff I've talked about because I am very wary of transhumanism. Okay. And we've talked about this many times on Sovereign Tech. I hate to say this because, and I'll probably get shit for it, but that's fine. There's a telescope that I think was getting built maybe in Hawaii, I think it was. And The Rock apparently went there and spoke out against it. This telescope was going to get built on basically Holy Land for the culture there. And The Rock went there and spoke out against that. And there were, peaceful protests about this telescope not getting built on this Holy Land in Hawaii, if I have it right. And he went there and basically had an argument saying, he's like, I am all about progress, but only when it respects humanity. Now, I agree with that. Like he says, he's all about scientific progress and technological progress as long as it respects humanity. It's a very carefully worded and important, interesting thing for him to say. It's interesting, though, that he's part of this, and this is just like a week ago, and you can find it on Instagram, and you'll see what I'm talking about. It's interesting that he's part of this protest and speaking out at this, and then his movie, Hobbs Shaw, which came out this weekend, has the same exact message at the end. I don't think that's a coincidence. And I don't know what to make of that exactly. I don't know if there's some kind of larger design, shall we say, and I don't mean by God. There is no God. I don't know if there's if there's some marketing there. I don't want to disrespect anybody by saying that necessarily, but I do find that to be very, very strange that those events coincide and that message, that very direct message coincides. So it just like so perfectly. It is weird. But that said, I actually agree with The Rock on this, and I agree with the overall message. In fact, it's something I'm going to try and expound upon more as the stories kind of present themselves. Or you can email me, bbs@sovereigntech.com, if you want me to talk more about it, but I'll talk more about it on a Zomi 1 Underground Q&A, so you got to sign up for that. But, I'm a big fan. So a lot of people who know me and have listened over the years, that I'm very much into bodybuilding, very much into, fitness. I've been working out for years. I go 5 to 7 days a week, depending upon the week. Ellen and I were working out like 2 hours a night. I mean, it's what we do. So I take this very seriously. And I am, someone who is working on becoming, you see the Rock in Hobbs and Shaw. I am totally going for that body type of which the Rock has, I'm all about that. So one of the things that I do, I'm a big supporter and a proponent and have been for years and years and years of, Five Fingers by Vibram. These are the shoes that look like bare feet, right? Where they have like the 5 separate toes that you put in and everything. And Vibram has this great like tagline, like marketing line for Vibram Five Fingers. And that is, your feet are the technology. The point that they're making with that statement, and it's a brilliant statement. Okay. Now I know there have been arguments that Vibram Five Fingers are, people think they're just snake oil. I don't agree, but whatever. Okay. We'll agree to disagree on that if you're in that camp. The idea that your feet are the technology, what they're saying is that, look, evolution has created, this foot of yours that operates in such an amazing way. Why would you toss it into what is basically a giant boat on your foot that turns it into a one toe, and has no feeling at the bottom, right? Because you got this massive sole, that's a 1 inch of rubber or whatever the fuck it is. And you look at the shoes, and when I go to the gym, I see the shoes people are wearing. They look like they're, I don't know, they're captaining the USS Enterprise on their feet. It's crazy, It's like, how do you feel what you're doing? And and I think it directly affects you personally, because like when I'm doing squats, and I'll throw on, well over a couple hundred pounds, and almost 300 pounds on a squat. If I'm wearing, something with a traditional heel on a gym shoe, it's going to or like a running shoe, it's going to push me forward, and it's going to fuck with my form when I'm doing a squat. And look, when you're approaching 300 pounds plus, like, you can't fuck up on form or you're going to break your back, or worse, you're going to do something terrible, So anyway, like I think Vibram Five Fingers work, but I think the overall ethos, ideology behind it, the idea that your feet are the technology, as in, look, your feet are already great. You just need a little protection underneath them, perhaps, or around them, to engage the modern world where, unfortunately, people are drinking and they're breaking glass bottles on the ground or something, and you don't want to cut your foot open. Or you happen to be, I don't know, wherever you happen to be. Hey, look, when it's wintertime, all bets are off. It's a very different situation. But for most people around the world in different parts of the year, you want your foot to be engaged. You want to use all the senses that your feet have for varying reasons. It's a great and healthy thing, in my opinion. Anyway, so the idea that your body, not just your feet, I'm the Golden Stallion, me, I'm going to take this a step further. I am not speaking for Vibram here. I just think their tagline and point and ideology is brilliant. You, as a human being, are already the technology. The technology that has been hardened, has dealt with a lot of exploits, security exploits, as in viruses, and I don't mean computer viruses, all kinds of things over the years. It's almost like a War of the Worlds message, right? Where, when the Martians came, they died from the cold. But humans, we've gotten past that. Our bodies are already the technology. And I think to respect our bodies as the remarkable organic technology that they are is how we actually evolve. We don't evolve by, kind of like the Brixton character in Hobbs and Shaw, by injecting ourselves with a shit ton of nanobots and whatever the fuck else, replacing our spines and our eyeballs that can take in all this different kind of sensory data. Most of us don't even use the sensory abilities of the human body, internal and external, to their full fruition in the first place. I mean, of course you don't. You're too busy fucking worried that your Netflix video is going to cut out while you're walking down the street. And I think that, all of these attempts of bringing in a lot of augmented reality and a lot of these other things into the human body is actually selling the technology that already exists within us, that we're born with. It's selling it short. And I think we're losing something because of that. I mean, one of the points in the movie Hobbs and Shaw that Brixton brings up, he says, look at the two of you, referencing Hobbs and Shaw. He's like, you're just normal people. You're trying to save the world and you can't even get along with each other. Humanity is a failure. In fact, he even goes on to say that, look at the failures of humanity. He talks about capitalism and all this other stuff, which whatever. He's missing the whole point. I mean, the reason that, if we were to get serious about it and take the message seriously, the reason that Hobbs and Shaw can't get along is because of traumas growing up. It's because, people fuck up as parents. Okay. It's not because of the fact that we don't have nanobots or we don't have augmented, machine parts within us. That's not why we're, a problem. I think for humanity to genuinely get to, if there is a next evolution of humanity, okay, something further, Homo sapien something, okay, it's actually us understanding the technology that we already are as human beings and bringing that to its fullest potential, not through other technology, but perhaps just through the scientific process, learning about what we can do. Because I don't think we exactly completely understand what we can do. I mean, just take, for example, the appendix, or all kinds of body parts within us that we're just now, or hell, fuck, how about the female, how about the woman's clitoris? We've just in the past decade, we've only finally realized, just the size, the scale, and of what it is, or the G-spot for some people is still considered to be a myth. Seriously, there's still professors in colleges that teach that the G-spot's a fucking myth. Are you kidding me? And what is that doing? That is writing off the full potential, no machines required, the full potential for human pleasure, for a woman's pleasure. And I would argue byproduct of that is another woman's pleasure or a man's pleasure. So we don't really appreciate or understand the full potential of the human condition. So to start injecting machines into us, I think it is a massive fail and a missed opportunity for us to truly evolve, or learning how to deal with traumas, learning how to treat each other with respect, which clearly we don't do. Fuck, we have governments and other authoritarian structures that clearly make that, that prove we don't know how to treat each other. I mean, we're not going to get rid of governments by fucking, putting augmented eyeballs on us. We're not. That's not going to happen. That's not going to solve jack shit. If anything, it's going to be under the control of Apple, Facebook, go down the list of the tech giant company if we decide to go that direction. Your body, the human that you are, is already the technology, you understand? And I would argue, as I have over the years, that it's a better technology than any machine could ever possibly be. In fact, the Fast and Furious franchise, even has commentary within itself about that, right? Because like launching EMPs, if an EMP went off, Brixton's turned off. It's over. He's done. In fact, he gets turned. Well, there you go. Spoiler alert. He gets turned off. As to where you, as an organic being, have agency. And you have that agency because you're not interconnected to the internet and you're not injected with a bunch of machines that can be turned off. Someone can shoot you and someone can kill you and it's over, but that's a hell of a lot harder than it is to destroy any machine. And I would argue absolutely, yes, that's true. You are already the technology. Respect that technology. Develop, don't go adding shit. Just develop that technology as you are with the tools that you have. You can do it naturally. And I kind of feel like Hobbs and Shaw it started to go in that direction, saying you can have all the technology, but without heart, it's meaningless. I agree. It started to go in that direction. I think that's a very interesting message, to put out there. You keep technology in its place. But again, we also mistake that the word technology, a hammer is technology. There's all these kinds of things that have nothing to do with the internet or that have a screen on them that are technically technology. Nobody, even the biggest Luddite in the world, is really anti-technology. Even people that rewild, would still probably use tools to, get fruits down from the tree or something like that. That is technology. Nobody's really anti-technology. That is a term that gets bantied about and used and is dead fucking wrong. But I think there is something to understanding what technology really is and understand that while you are organic, you could make an argument that you are a type of technology, but you are already the technology. And don't buy into Silicon Valley's bullshit that somehow you need to be improved and that they are the one to sell it to you. Don't buy it. Because it's not true. Anyway. We'll wrap up this episode of Sovryn Tech. I thought Hobbs and Shaw, go see it. I think it was a tremendous little film. It doesn't exactly feel like Fast and Furious, but I really think I need to watch it a couple more times. I give it an 8 out of 10. I know Ellen had a great time watching it. And so, we had just a tremendous time in the theater. So if you're looking to have a good time, I think you could do a lot worse than going to see this movie. It's really, really worthwhile. Hobbs and Shaw, a great entry into the Fast and Furious franchise. I wish it all the success because I do want spin-offs of these movies. I want this to go wherever it wants to go. It's very, very exciting. Easily one of the best franchises going still to this day and is actually keeping things fairly original. Unlike the rest of Hollywood where I don't know what the fuck they're doing. Anyway, I love it. So check it out, Hobbs and Shaw. That'll wrap it up for this episode of Sovryn Tech. And of course, sign up at Zomia One. Go to Zomia1.com. Join the Zomia One Underground. We can have these kinds of conversations all the time. And I will see all of you on the other side.
You just experienced Sovryn Tech. Go to sovryntech.com. That's SOVRYN tech.com. And connect with us there. Find links from today's show and catch our podcast feed. Sovryn Tech is copy heart. Copying art is an act of love, and love is not subject to law. So please share the show however you like. Welcome to the evolution.